In this video today, I'll show you how I scanned this figurine using my Creality Ferret Pro 3D scanner. And I apologize ahead of time. The screen capture on my computer was not working, so I had to record the computer screen with my cell phone, and you could see my reflection in the laptop's screen. And it might be distracting, and for that I apologize. But let's begin. We're going to create a new project. It's going to be a normal object. It's medium size. I'm going to use some markers. We want high quality, and we're going to exclude the flat base. And I'm going to click Preview. And it's looking pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Start. Now I have it on this turntable, and I have some markers that I've printed out that are three-dimensional, as well as the turntable top itself, which I've 3D printed out and put some markers on. And so I am just going to turn it very slowly and do my initial scanning. Okay, now I'm going to finish this one and see what it looks like. And that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to rearrange the object on the turntable so I can get another view. I'm going to create a new scan. I'm going to preview. And that looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Start. And while you are scanning, you want to make sure you keep it green. When it turns red, pause for a little while until it catches up. You may even have to back up a little bit to the last time that it was green, but you want to try and keep the scanning color green for most of the scan as you're scanning around. Well, it seems to have lost its place, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this scan. And it looks fairly decent. And now I'm going to rearrange the model on the turntable again so I can get another view. We're going to start a new scan. Same conditions, then preview. And I will center it on here. And then press Start. Okay, and then I will finish this one. All right, and now we're going to clean up these scans. And so I am going to use the rectangle and the lasso tool to get rid of everything I don't want. And so I'll start with the rectangle tool, and while I hold down the Shift key, I'm just going to click and drag And the part I'm going to delete is going to turn red, and then I'm going to hit the delete key. And then I will continue to clean off the areas that I don't want. It might help to remove the marker view. Now it's very important that you click the check mark here to save your changes. Then we're going to do the same for the other two scans. Okay, and we'll save that. All right, now we've got all three done, so we're going to select all three scans and we are going to do fusion. Now they are all fused. We can come to mesh processing and alignment, and we will align them. Okay, and the alignment is finished, but we've got some pretty large holes. And so I'm going to do one more scan. This time I'm going to concentrate on that middle portion that seems to be missing quite a bit. All right, and here I'm doing another scan, and this time I'm going to concentrate on the stomach region of the little girl to try and get that part that was resulted in a hole in the other three scans, and then I will combine all four scans together and we'll see if we have any better results. All right, let's see how that one does. We'll finish it. And we seem to have her belly. Let's go ahead and clean this up. Okay, save. Now let's pick, oops, actually for scan number 4, I'm going to have to fusion it. Okay, let's see if we got her belly this time. Oh, we got it a little better. I don't understand why we have all these holes. Let's see. Okay, well, let's see what happens when we combine them all. So we'll go to mesh processing, alignment, and align. Okay, that's a little better. We got more of her stomach this time. So let's exit. I'm going to go to meshing. We'll do a low smoothing and maybe do 500 for whole. Okay, that did it mostly. That looks better than before. We still got quite a big hole under here. Let's go to edit, hole filling, set that up to maximum, and let's preview it. Okay, so where the red is, that's where it's going to fill. And I'd say that looks pretty good, so let's click OK. And I'd say that's looking pretty good. So I'm going to exit edit. We're going to go ahead and export this mesh. All right, and I've opened my scanned mesh file in 3D Builder, which is a program that's included with Windows 10 and Windows 11. And I am going to import the model. And I will select the model. Now I'm going to rotate it. And so I'm just going to try and get it straight. So we'll start by rotating it this way and maybe a little bit this way. And let's see, we'll need to rotate it, I believe, this way. And let's try and bring it down to the plane. So you can see when it hits the plane, you can see its shadow. And then when it's really close to the plane, and that might give us a better idea of how we need to rotate it. And so let's see, it's probably this one I want to rotate. Okay. All right, and that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to use the up and down arrow keys, and I'm going to bring it down to when it's obviously going down into the, like when we zoom in. Zoom out a little bit. And maybe lift it up just a little, because I just barely want it to go into it. And you can see we need to rotate it a little bit this way. So this way to get that. And let's see how that looks. I want to have it pretty equal going down into the base here. And so you can see we've got this side is a little bit too far in. I believe that is this one. Maybe a little of this also, because we're trying to get it level. And so that looks pretty level. I'm going to lift it up a little bit so that it's just about on the plane. And so that looks pretty good right there as it is. And so I am going to come up to Save As. I'm going to save it, as an STL file. And I am going to save it under the STL name, and then I'm going to say 3D Builder Rotated. And so that's how you can rotate your piece in 3D Builder. But we still don't have a completely flat plane. So for that, we are going to use Fusion 360. Okay, now we've got Fusion 360 open. I'm going to select the Mesh tab. Going to come to Create, and we're going to insert a mesh. I'm going to select from my computer. And this is the item we just rotated in 3D Builder. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to look at the front view. And you can see we're pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead and center it and also move to ground. And I don't have to use any of these rotation things here because I'd say we did that in 3D Builder. So I'm just going to click OK. Now I'm going to come up to Modify, and I am going to Plane Cut. I'm going to select my model. I'm going to rotate so that I can see this bottom pane. That's the one I'm going to select. And then we're going to just lift it up just a little bit, just enough to flatten. And of course that was too far. Let's try 1.5 millimeters to begin with. And let's look at that front view again. And that looks pretty good. And when we look at the bottom, you can see how that's going to flatten the bottom out. And so we'll click OK. So now we have some big holes. And so what we're going to want to do is close those holes on the bottom. So if we come over here to Bodies and we expand this out, there's a little air code here, and so we'll click on it. And the repair type is we want to close the holes, and we'll just click OK. And so now our holes are closed on the bottom. Now, even though we have repaired the holes, if we come to Inspect and we do a section analysis, and let's select that bottom pane again, our object is actually hollow. Now this may or may not matter with your slicer. Your slicer may go ahead and fill that up, and you can just now export this as an STL. You can come up to here to File and Export, and export it as an STL file. Or we can go ahead at this point and go ahead and make this a solid. And so how you will make this a solid is you will come up to Modify, and you want to convert the mesh. We'll select our body, and we're going to convert it as parametric and faceted, and then click OK. Now this is going to take an enormous amount of time, and you probably think nothing is going on, but it really is. It is working. So you just need to be patient. Okay, and at this point, when it turns black like this, you know it's finished. And so now we can inspect it. We can look at our section analysis. We can select that bottom pane. And now we can see that the object is filled. Okay, and I'm going to get it back to the front view up here because that's the one I always want to work on. You can come up to Modify, Move and Copy, and select the object over here so you get these little arrows. And then as you can see, it moves it way too much. Let's see if we move it by -1 millimeter, maybe -1.1. And that looks about right, about -1.1. So that's how I can move it down to the plane. I'm going to do File, Export, and I'm going to call this one Don't Be Impatient Final Fusion 360, and export it. And now we will be ready to print it out. Okay, I've opened my slicer, which in this case is Bambu Studio. I'm going to come up to File and Import. I'm going to import the STL file. And this is the one we just did in Fusion 360. Now instead of doing it full size, which is the scanned size, I'm going to go ahead and scale it down to maybe 60% size to make it a little smaller. Now I am going to enable supports and have some tree supports. Let's slice this and see what it looks like. And if we look at the line type, the green is our supports, and so that's what this is going to look like. I'm going to print this out on my Bambu Lab P1S. And let me make sure that it recognizes everything. I'm going to print it out in some gray PLA. And so I am going to synchronize my AMS. And so I'm just going to print this out in gray. So we'll go ahead and slice it again. And it's going to take about 25, almost 25.5 grams. It's going to take about an hour and a half. So we'll go ahead and print it. And we'll send it to the printer. And when it finishes, we shall be back. And here's the final print, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Bye!